Volodymyr Zelensky delivering a powerful address to Congress yesterday. He spoke for about 19 minutes and at the end got a standing ovation from the House and Senate.
Yeah, for more on this, let's welcome in Pennsylvania Congressman, Iraq war veteran and member of the House Committee of Foreign Affairs, Guy Reschenthaler. Congressman, welcome back to our program this morning. So President Zelensky is claiming the hesitance to impose the no-fly zone is leading him to act as if there is no open door for Ukraine to join NATO. How do you think this statement is going to impact negotiations with Russia?
Well, I think it's interesting that everybody's saying some of the folks that are naysayers here say that we can never allow Ukraine to be part of NATO. The irony is if NATO had accepted Ukraine into the NATO alliance, Putin never would have invaded Ukraine. So it's amazing that we're seeing some in the West try to capitulate and appease Putin in the face of his aggression. And I get the sense that the West is going to try to sell Ukraine down the river, trying to get Ukraine to make a promise of neutrality, trying to get Ukraine to give up the areas that the Russians have illegally annexed, and that includes Crimea. And why would the Ukrainians do that? Think about it. In the late 90s, the United States and Great Britain guaranteed Ukrainian sovereignty if Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons. Ukraine gave up those nuclear weapons, and now where are the Brits?
Yeah, we didn't back them up.
Americans now.
They thought, exactly. It's 30 years later, they thought we were going to back them up. George H.W. Bush negotiating that deal and Bill Clinton seeing it through. So do you think that it's not like Ukraine was close to joining NATO before this invasion? There's a couple countries, I can think of two, France and Germany, that are definitely not going to vote for Ukraine to be a part of NATO. It's got to be unanimous. All 30 have to say yes. This wasn't close to happening before, right?
No, it wasn't. And the fact that you had olive branches that were being extended by some countries to Ukraine led to a lot joining NATO, led to the confusion. But I still stand by the fact that I think that NATO should, Germany and France should get out of the way, and we should allow Ukraine to join NATO, because otherwise you're just going to see Putin and the Russians solidify those bases of power, wait a few years, just like they did between now and 2014 when they took Crimea. And then they'll try to make a full annexation of Ukraine, because this is not about Russia afraid of NATO on his border. He already has NATO nations on his border. Poland is in NATO. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia are on his border. So this is really about the total annexation of Ukraine, because ultimately Putin wants to reunite all those Soviet bloc nations from the USSR into the Russian Federation. The peace deal that should be negotiated is this: that Zelensky and the Ukrainians should be free to join any alliances they choose. The land that the Russians took, both Crimea and the current land, should be given back to Ukraine. That should be starters for any negotiation. I just wish that Biden had that kind of resolve, and I wish that Biden was as resolute in defending freedom as Zelensky is. If Zelensky is a modern-day Churchill, Biden is a modern-day Chamberlain. He has sold out the West. He's acquiesced, and that weakness has led to the aggression you're seeing from Russia.
Wow.
Yeah, Congressman, we have about 15 seconds left, but the Biden administration giving millions in aid. They're giving anti-arm weapons, body armor, guns, and drones. Is this enough?
Allison, it's not Biden doing this. That was an appropriations bill. I'm on the appropriations committee, the foreign ops subcommittee. In fact, we put that in an appropriations package. We voted that out of Congress. Joe Biden's just signing the dotted line. So this isn't some miraculous step that Biden's taken. Is that enough? I don't think so. I still am calling for a no-fly zone. I think we should be engaged in electronic warfare, jamming the Russian planes, grounding those planes that are bombing civilians. But it's better than nothing. We need to get those MiG-29s to the Ukrainians as well. So Biden is still not leading. More should be done in this situation.
Congressman, great to have you back on. We appreciate it. Back-to-back days.
Thanks
so much for the analysis.
You.
Good to see you. Guy Reschenthaler joining us this morning. Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest-growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.